Good morning, traders. Like my video if you get a chance on the bottom of YouTube there. Leave some comments below. And if you can, any good comments or things you're seeing I'm not seeing. And retweet me on X if you get a chance. Gummy9662C. Okay, guys. Bottom line is yesterday's video I was talking about that we may have hit a major critical support on the volatility VIX and VIX futures, and so far this morning we're bouncing off that level. Right at the top of that bounce point, we're bouncing right where I had predicted. We'll see how it plays out here. So that's a main takeaway, which I'm seeing early on this morning. On the extremes this morning, let's see, the VX futures. What we got going on our extremes? On the bearish side, now let me make sure I got these sorted right. Okay, on the bullish side, we got crude oil. I had mentioned yesterday that I thought this was possibly I would not want to be shorting down here futures. So we're getting a little bit of bounce here on the energy space this morning. Crude, so crude is outperforming. I thought it was had a feeling that we were probably getting to a point that we're due for a bounce at the very least on that. Also, fear is really up almost 2% on gold this morning, going back into these prior high areas. Heads up on that. And I did want to point out the long end of the yield curve is expanding this morning. That is not good. That's screams stagflation. So let's be very mindful, help support the theory. And typically what you see, you go from in a maturing market cycle, you go from yield inversion to losing control of the long end of the curve. And now we're seeing recurring signs that the long end of the curve is starting to outperform in the markets. That is a big warning that things are starting to unwind in the economy. So it's a big major warning for the economy. Okay, let me go ahead and sort these the other direction now. There we go. Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum is down this morning a little bit, the most. So Bitcoin might be on this too. NQ is the sector getting impacted the most this morning. Let me go down here on the 1 hour now on my chart. And a theory that I had going on here, you see right here, this line right here. Okay, I got the 1 hour chart up. This is the weekly webs. So this is the weekly point of control. From the prior week. Here, this is our current week. Okay, they're awfully close to overlapping here, but this is where institutions have been placing big bets right at this price point. So, what they do, a lot of times, let's say that we're coming into a major resistance area, and they will start placing those bets before we get into that major resistance or major supply. Um, so that's why this is down here. So we started seeing big bets put down here before we got into this final push up, a potential final push up here. Okay, so a lot of times that'll happen. But I was actually looking yesterday for us to come back down into this week on week area, thinking that this is a blow off top area, that we were going to come back pretty quickly back into that range right there to start invalidating and putting all these bulls on notice. Hey, so basically, once we get down here below the 19,570, then you're going to start seeing the bulls. Any bulls who bought into this zone right here, they're going to start trying to cover their positions. So they don't really mind holding when we're above that. On the bullish side. So I was thinking we were going to come down into that range yesterday, but we held up for a double topping area, a double topping situation up into these really critical highs. And now this morning we're starting to fade away from those to really high highs there. So before the day's out. I would not be surprised to see us back down here into this area down here, where all that volume has hit down here at the 19,515 area. I think there's reason to think that that could happen today. So be very mindful of that going forward here. Uh, Now my big trades yesterday, similar situation. I saw a lot of relative weakness into the Russell, and it's 1970 is my line in the sand here. And what they did to me, they tricked me. Okay, so what we had going on yesterday uh, on the Russell was we looked into these. Let's see here, where's it at? Let me zoom in here. 1 second here. So we looked. You see these lows right here? We looked below these lows. And so I actually initiated a short right at the worst time in yesterday morning, and uh, and I actually went a little bit too big on the trade, and so they trapped me on that trade just to rally against me. And then once we started getting up there, I actually added to the short, and I managed to eliminate about half my loss on a later sell-off in the market uh, in the overnight. So into the close yesterday, I was actually taking a swing short. So I negated about half my loss from what I went overnight a smaller size. So uh, I'm looking for half or more of the loss I made yesterday to be wiped out. Uh, I'd like to go smaller on swing positions. So I'm actually doing pretty good here on the overnight session. But I'm still thinking that, ultimately our major support is down here at 1970. So I'm still looking for a continuation of the fade early on in today's session. Similar situation down here, you know, this is where all of the big institutions were making bullish or bearish bets. We resolved higher, and I am primarily looking for a move back into that going into the FOMC tomorrow. So that you have to give yourself enough time for that to play out. So that's kind of my primary thesis. We're going to be coming back down into the 55 area here on the ES futures. Okay, guys, that gives you some idea of some of the things I'm looking at here on the futures front. Now, if you go over here on the pre-market here, what's happening? Palantir reported, and boy, they are getting a little smoked this morning. Palantir's getting a little bit smoked here. Okay, guys, so we're right into this area. Like I said, um, uh, you got the bullish bet. There was a bunch of bulls here, a bunch of bears coming in here. This is where the institution, so anybody who is bullish right here, right now, there is a threat that this will continue to lower. So be very mindful of this, because all these guys who are bullish, now they're going to start trying to likely cover their positions, which could in turn drive prices even lower here, thinking that we could ultimately live back down to 97 here in a few days. You know, so be very mindful of that. Okay, so that's a big thing that I'd be worried about today, and that is probably having a big SMH. Palantir was getting driven up by SMH, helping support SMH. SMH is failing a little bit here, but like I said, we got a lot of volume down here. We're still trading above that, so that's a little bit on the bullish side still. On the SMH, NVIDIA, we're still on the bullish side of the inventory here too. Okay, guys, so some of the main drivers in the markets here, some things I'm looking at here. Tesla, okay, so we had a lot of volume coming in for a directional move in the markets. It looks like we're starting to resolve lower on that inventory. All those big bullish bets appear into resistance. It does look like we're starting to resolve lower on Tesla. So be very mindful of that. So ultimately you would be looking for a move back down to the 255 area if this thing does continue to resolve lower here. We have a fair value gap down here that has not completed. So this is my primary thesis early on this morning. Some things I'm looking at here. Alibaba, very bullish pattern. You know, so this here looks like price discovery to the upside this morning. Check K-Web. That's always the Chinese internet. You know, we're still putting signs of bullish continuation on the Chinese names this morning. BP's probably catching a little bit of a lift. No, BP's actually getting. We had a dividend maybe. It's showing a sign of a dividend, but I don't know what's going on there. We had earnings yesterday, and it's coming off those earnings a little bit this morning. Other things happening this morning. Intel, one of your SMH players. Looks like a lot of big bets were placed up here at this higher price point. That is rejecting. This is actually we're still holding this level right here, so it's kind of like in a sideways consolidation on that. AMD reports tonight. AMD reports tonight, still suggesting price discovery to the upside going into earnings. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I mean, I could be surprised, but expectations for AMDs haven't been very good. Yesterday was a great short. I called it out in yesterday's video, and Apple was one of the weakest yesterday. So we had this big consolidation of institutions making bets, and we could see that yesterday morning. So there was some, or there were some big bets and stuff that happened there in the last week. Okay, and we were resolving below that first thing yesterday morning, and that just continued lower. This was a great short setup early on yesterday morning. If anybody was taking it, knowing that we were losing a very critical 205, losing at 205 pre-market, that was just a really beautiful setup to the downside on Apple. Other things, no, nothing there. Okay, no. Microsoft, keep an eye on it. We had good earnings on Microsoft, but we see a lot of institutional bets placed right here. So we got two different levels here. Bottom line is we have to get below 430 before we see any type of price discovery to the downside. 430 or start a breakout above these prior highs. So somewhere between above 440 or below 430. I still think they want to fill this fair value gap. So just be very mindful here. I don't really want to be short that until that fair value gap has completed on Microsoft. Okay. Meta had a good support bounce yesterday. So we came right down to the fair value gap. This actually should be, now that we've turned that into support, I can actually turn this into green. So now we have confirmation that they are trying to use this as support. Yesterday it was red because it had not been validated as any type of support. Okay, so now this has proven to be support once. Okay, we'll see if it does it again today. Okay, so basically this is the area where the big institutions, these two areas, big institutions make big bets. Okay, and we're still on the bullish side of those big bets. So dips should be bought in this situation until proven otherwise. So this support should be bought on Meta because the volume profile is showing that this is what's going on here. Okay. Amazon. I was bearish on Amazon yesterday. I was looking for a move below 180. Yeah. We got this fair value gap down here, which bottom line is we are below this where the big institutions made their big bets. We had very little participation above this area, suggesting that there's heavy institutional selling. So be very mindful of this. Just by the volume profile itself, it suggests that there is a ceiling in this name. So I'd much rather look for this to the downside. Early on this morning here, we're breaking out of last week's fair value area, suggesting price discovery to the downside. Heads up on that. So we have to be very mindful of this pattern. Really looking bearish. I definitely would be looking for the fair value gap, or if not lower. So just be very mindful of that. going forward here, in my opinion, on Amazon. Google, I think it was bullish yesterday. Yeah, Google was bullish yesterday. So we have these a big bet right here, okay, which ultimately led to the downside, okay, and then I found support. Had a big institutional bets right here, which ultimately squeezed to the upside. And then right when we got up above this resistance right here, we had big institutional players right here, just 2 weeks ago. Okay, and they, and now we are losing that area early on this morning. So be very mindful of what's going on there. So it looks like we're trapped. Um, you know, uh, we're in like a sideways consolidation area here. We are above this area right here, so that is slightly more bullish than bearish until proven otherwise. Okay, so you see all that glut of volume right there. I would really like to see prices holding below the 158 before I would start looking for a directional uh, downside move. So I definitely want to mention that we do have uh, this fair value gap has satisfied. I still got it on there on the chart. Okay, but we do have some fair value gaps down here that have not been satisfied, and the earnings is behind us. So some little things there. It's not really that clear here on the Google chart. Really, it's not. It's in a place that I really don't want to mess with. Any other ones? Nvidia, like I mentioned here, it does look like a wall. We are currently trading against a wall here on Nvidia. Okay, and it's a lot of times that means just like the Amazon chart, these walls, they can resolve very quickly to the downside as institutions are not finding acceptance. It's just a bunch of institutional heavy shorting into these walls. Okay, and that may not be the case. We could actually resolve higher and then get a breakout. In a short squeeze breakout. That's a lot of times what happens. You get this multiple times. We hit this area, and then you get the um, short squeeze breakout. And we do have a fair value gap above us here, so we have to be mindful of that in today's trading. So that's just what I'm looking at right here. Right now, this is a bearish pattern unless it proves otherwise. Okay, so in my opinion, it's really It looks like a bearish pattern. Like this consolidation from all this is starting to lose support here early on today. Okay. Any other big ones that I mentioned here? Have I mentioned Tesla yet? I can't remember. Uh, yeah, Tesla's looking. So we had a big wall here. We tried to look above that big wall. We continued to put more, didn't really get anywhere, okay, into this resistance, and now we're resolving lower. This looks like a fair value gap fill is setting up here on this one. This one here is really looking bearish. I actually like this one better on the bearish side than a lot of the charts. So let's be very mindful of that going forward here uh, in our trading going forward here. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much my main takeaway here. Uh, you know, I had mentioned that, it really looked like that we were into potential a swing high in the ESs and NQs, Russell. I was only looking to the short side yesterday. I'm only looking to the short side today, thinking we're going to still see further range continuation to the downside. So we'll see how it plays out and go from there. Okay, guys? So thanks a lot.